Hi there, this is Heather of Shutterbug 101. Today we will be doing a walkthrough of the Sony a6000 series, doing a walkthrough of the a6300 with the 16 to 50 kit lens.
Come and fly away with me. We're rising, we're falling, we're making through.
The Sony a6000 line, which includes the a6000, a6300, a6500, and a6400 in order of their release dates, are the 24 megapixel crop sensor cameras that Sony currently sells in their mirrorless line. All four cameras share the same body style, 3-inch tilting screen, and 11 frames per second continuous drive. Where they start to differ is the features. Naturally, the a6000 will be the most basic features. The a6300 adds more focus points as the a6000 has 179, the a6300 has 425, 4K video rather than just 1080p HD, a microphone port, and the ability to use your cell phone as a remote control. The a6500 added 5-axis in-body stabilization, touchscreen, and more video options. In the newest model, the a6400 added the more sensitive ISO from 25,600 to 32,000, extends video record limit from 30 minutes at a time to no limit at all, and the screen is able to flip up for a selfie screen. As the body is similar through all models, I will be doing a walkthrough on the 6300 model today. So as you can see here, the a6000 line is going to be fairly small. This makes it perfect for travel, perfect for a hobby camera. I've taken some wonderful pictures with this camera specifically. You can get some great pictures out of a crop sensor, and the mirrorless technology, of course, gives you what you see is what you get. So starting with the kit lens here, you can see that we have a ring here, and we also have a little switch. Both of these will be able to zoom. This is going to, of course, be your power zoom, so it's going to be better off using for video specifically, while this is just kind of fine-tune it. You can also use this ring for manual focusing if you have it set to manual focus. To remove the lens is going to be this button here. Hold this button, turn, remove. You're going to line up the white dot here with the white dot on the camera. Put it on, click and snap. Going to the side of the camera here, because of course on this side there's really nothing, it's nice and flush. So going to this side here, going to the door, you're going to see a little door here, so you're actually going to push this out and it's going to flip up. Here you have the option to use a microphone, which of course you will not find on the a6000. We have a charging port here. So when you purchase the a6000 series, it does not come with a external charger. You do charge it inside the camera itself. You can get a external charger separately, which is what I've done. And what's really nice about this charging port is if you're on the go and you have an external battery pack powered by USB, you can just plug your charger into the camera, charge the camera on the go while you're shooting. So it really helps if you're starting to run low on battery life. And then of course we have an HDMI cable port here as well, in case I wanted to connect this to a screen or a television to show pictures or settings on my camera. Okay. Going to the top of the camera here, you can see that this is where we're going to find the model number. It displays pretty prominently that it does 4K video rather than the 1080p. This of course is going to be our hot shoe area, protected by this nice plate. So that'll protect the contacts that are in there. This is going to be our pop-up flash. So if we have this on, right now I have it on auto, so if I do, let's see, you're going to push this button right back on the back here if you want to pop that up, that little lightning bolt. It's going to get that to pop up. Now naturally, I say this about every camera, every pop-up flash is absolutely awful. It doesn't really do any justice for your photos. But in an emergency situation where you just need that little boost of light, at least you have it. It's better than nothing at all. Going over our dial here, go ahead and we'll turn this around. We have, of course, our auto spot, which is letting the camera take full control. You don't really have much control over anything. This is, of course, going to be the fastest way to get your shot without doing any fine-tuning or detailing. But if you want a little bit more control over your pictures, the P mode is going to be the best option. The P mode is essentially going to be your auto mode, but going to give you a little bit more control over where you want your focus points at, how you want it to focus. If you want to change shutter speed or aperture, it'll change vice versa for you. And P is going to stand for program. Okay, and then we have our A mode, which is going to be our aperture priority. That's going to allow us to change our aperture while the camera changes the shutter speed. And of course, the aperture is going to be how much light is let into the lens. The S, of course, is going to be our shutter speed priority. You're going to control the shutter speed while the camera will control the aperture. Okay, so that, of course, is going to control how much light you let into your lens, or at least for a specific time. M, of course, is going to be full manual. You have full control over your photos. You control every aspect. You're not really letting the camera going to be doing any thinking at all. So unless you've really mastered your aperture, shutter speeds, ISOs, don't go on manual quite yet. I find that has turned a lot of people away from photography, unfortunately. You'll notice that the 1 and 2 are in a little box here. These are going to be essentially like a memory recall almost. So if you work in a situation like a studio, for instance, so if I was to just be like photographing equipment here, I'm working with the same lights. Every YouTube video, the lights are always in the same place, so I know that if I find the perfect settings to photograph photo equipment in this light, I can just save it to spot 1 or spot 2. And so when I come back in another week and I go, oh, I need to take more pictures, I can just go here instead of having to try and find my settings all over again. So these can be really handy if you ever work in a studio lighting situation, or if you take pictures of products, that sort of thing. Then, of course, we have a little film strip. That's going to be our video mode. You can do video in any of your manual modes or even your auto mode by pushing your record button, which is the red button right here. You're just going to start and stop when it comes to video, but the film strip just gives you more options when it comes to those video settings when it comes to your menu. With the little squishy rectangle here, of course, is going to be our panoramic mode. That's going to allow you to take really wide establishing shots to capture landscapes perfectly. So here we have our scene mode, which is essentially going to be our auto presets. So if you go to scene mode and we look on the back screen here, you use this little adjustment knob, you'll see that the picture up at the top is going to change. So this is going to be portraits, sports, it's going to be macro, landscape, night shots, or that looks like it's actually going to be like sunset or dawn. That's going to be night shots handheld, night portraits. That I believe is kind of like extra stabilization. I might be mistaken there. But essentially it's just going to be for those very specific circumstances. Now, don't let this make or break a photo either. So if there's a situation where you're taking pictures of landscapes, but someone is doing something funny, don't go, oh shoot, I have to switch it over to portrait. You can absolutely just turn it to auto or turn it to P, depending on what you want to do. And you'll be able to take a great photo. You don't have to worry about switching to something specific. Okay, so going to the bottom of the camera here, you can see that we have our universal screw mount. Okay, we also have the battery door where the SD card is held as well. To open, you just put that forward, pops right up. This is going to be your battery, so you put the switch. There we go. And then this is where your memory card goes in this slot here. And of course, on the actual door here, it does say how you put the card in and how you put the battery in. So it's pretty foolproof, just follow directions. There we go. So getting to the back of the camera here, where all of the action happens. This is going to be your electronic viewfinder. So naturally, when you look through that and you hit this sensor, everything that was on the back screen here is going to be in our viewfinder now. And if you back your face away from it where it doesn't trip the sensor anymore, it's going to head right back to the screen. We've already gone over the flash button here to get our flash to pop up if we would like to use flash. We'll go over the menu in just a moment. This, of course, is gonna let you do like manual focus, autofocus. If you hold the button, this is gonna be your auto exposure lock if you need to lock in your exposure. This is also gonna be your zoom button. So if you looked back on pictures using your playback, you want to zoom in, make sure it's all in focus. You would use this button here to zoom forward and check that. You would also use this as your dial and this to zoom in and out. So your function button here, we kind of went over. This is going to be your quick menu. Now I do have it on auto right now, so you'll notice that right now only 4 options are available to change. So it's going to be these are changeable as well. So if there was something on there that you were like, well, I'm never going to use that, you can actually change it. So right now for myself, I have it set to image quality, which I have it set to raw right now. You can change smile or face detection. So if it detects a face, it's automatically going to focus there. And then there's actually smile detection, which if it detects a smile, it's automatically going to take a picture. So this can really help in situations where if you are, you have a family shot that you're trying to get into, you're the only one with the camera, you set it up on a tripod or put it on a fence post, you put that smile detection on, you go and take your time, get comfortable in the group, and you just tell everybody, okay, everybody smile at the camera. And if it detects a smile, it's just going to keep shooting. So, you wait for it to take 5 pictures, you get up, you go check them out, and you're bound to have at least one good one of everyone smiling. You don't have to time yourself with the timer. There's also your autofocus mode, which on auto, it's automatically going to default to automatic autofocus. You can change it to single shot autofocus, which is going to be for still shots, where it's going to lock in its autofocus, and then your continuous autofocus, which is going to continually focus on things that are moving. Okay, and then of course you have your digital manual focus and your manual focus as well, if you want to kind of fine tune that. And then of course our 4th one that we have here is going to be steady shot. That's going to be stabilization. Now this is very important. If you have it on and you go and put it on a tripod, you actually want to make sure that that stabilization is turned off, because you're letting the tripod do the stabilization at that point. So you can actually cause shake by having it stabilize in the camera and on a tripod. It sounds a little unusual, but it's when you have that stabilization on, it's compensating for that body shake, so it's trying to expect it. So definitely keep that in mind. Now you'll notice that when we switch it to, for instance, our P mode, and we go to our quick menu here, these are now fully available. Here you can change your ISO, your metering mode, so considering the all over image, the center, whatever's in the center, and then your spot, which is you can go ahead and pick where you want it to take the light from. Then of course we have our white balance, which I always recommend just keeping it on auto white balance unless you want to kind of play around with the temperature of your photo, but always remember to change it back, because then you'll end up getting smurfs or orange people in your photographs. Again, we have that smile and face detection, focus mode, HDR, which I don't ever really use, creative style, which essentially you can liven up the color. You can change it black and white, any of that. We have focus area. So right now I have it on flexible spot, so I can choose where I want it to focus on the back screen, but you can choose wide, you know, a specific zone, dead center, anything like that. Then we have our exposure compensation, making it a little bit brighter, a little bit darker, depending on what the situation is, and then back to steady shot. So here on the dial, there are some shortcuts as well. So if you push up, where you see DISP, that's going to stand for display. It's going to change the overall look and information it gives on the back of the screen here. So if we hit that, now we're getting a histogram. Now we're getting a level, which is going to change when you tilt the camera back and forth. Green is going to be nice and straight, which it's not doing, but that's okay. Here we're just seeing information. We're not seeing what we're taking a picture of. More information laid out. I personally like this one here. It's giving me the information I need, you know, nothing more, so it's not overcomplicated. If you push to the left, left. So if you push to the left on your dial, this will control your drive mode and your timer. So the single square is going to be a single shot. If you click and hold the button down, it's going to take one picture versus continuous, which takes pictures at 11 frames per second. We'll do that as long as you hold that button down. And of course you have your timer as well. When you push right on the dial, that's going to be your ISO. What I've done is, because I don't want to have to worry about my ISO in most circumstances, is I put it to auto for every day. And what you can do is you can actually go over and you can adjust the maximum and minimum ISO. So while this camera can go up to 25,600 ISO, I know that I'm probably going to see some visual noise with that number. So I believe for this camera, I feel very safe with it having the decision to go up to 6,400. I don't think it should ever really need to go past that. So that's what I've set it to, the maximum that it should go between with whatever recommends in auto. Okay. But you can choose your own ISO if you would like. And then if you push down, that gives you some more exposure compensation. So if we take a look at the screen here, okay, and for instance, if I put my mouse right down there, okay, and I want to make it a little bit brighter, you can do that with exposure compensation, or you can make it a little bit darker. You know, so you can add light, less light. So then we have our playback button here to view pictures that we have taken. Now I currently don't have a card in here, so naturally it's not going to show anything. If I want to delete pictures, you're going to use a little trash can button on your playback menu. Now this C2 button is also programmable, so if you want to give this guy a shortcut, very similar to how your dial has shortcuts when you're in shooting mode. Right now this guy is tied to creative style, so that vivid color, black and white, that sort of thing is tied to that button right now. You can change that in your menu here. So going into our menu here, we're going to start on page 1, which is page 1 of the shooting menu with the little camera. Here you can change your image size, your image quality, the ratio size, panoramic size. Now you'll only be able to change this when you're in your panoramic mode, so do keep that in mind. Your file format when it comes to your video, your record settings when it comes to your video, drive mode, which of course this is going to be the shortcut here if you want to just do it through the shortcut. The whole idea of like your quick menu and your shortcuts here, so you can avoid going into the menu, you know, when it counts. Because naturally this is going to take some time to find what you need, because there's just so many options, and a lot of these options you're not going to use. You have your flash mode, red eye reduction, focus mode, focus area like we have on our quick menu, autofocus drive speed, you know, so when it takes, so if I have my hand here, how long it takes to focus on my hand versus the camera. Okay, you can do normal or fast, however you want to do that when it comes to the video, which of course is indicated by that little film strip that it's for video, not specifically for pictures. Your exposure compensation, your ISO, metering mode you can change it here along with your white balance. So a lot of this stuff on your quick menu, or that you can put on your quick menu. Center lock autofocus, smile and face detection, again, more stuff. There's the soft skin effect. I wouldn't really worry about that. Auto object framing. I find that a lot of people that are getting started with this camera kind of like this option if they're getting used to composition. Because what auto object framing likes to do is when you take a picture of, say, a group of people, the camera will then look at the picture and go, oh, well, that is a really nice picture of like that one person in the middle as well. So what it'll do is it'll save that picture of like the 3 people you took, but it'll also save an additional image of like the person in the middle cropped in. So what it'll do is it'll crop for you if it detects that, oh, well, that's a good shot of that particular person or object. So for me, that's not one that I'll do, but you know, something for you to try out, see if you like it. Steady shot, again, so if you need some stabilization. Color space, which you're just going to keep it at RGB. Audio recording with noise reduction. You have like your memory if you needed to recall back on settings or things that you've changed in the past. Now going on to the gear, when it comes to the menu there, you can do different graphs, different displays like zebra, histogram, grid lines, those sort of things, the technical aspects, the audio level display if you'd like to see that on the screen, your display button to change that if you wanted to. Let's see, exposure set guide, live view display. These are things that you're really not going to change. The finer monitor, what you can do is you can either turn the sensor on or off. Essentially, you can put the screen specifically to the viewfinder, specifically to the lens, or have it on auto where if it detects that your face is close enough, it just puts it right in there for you. The finder frame rate, which is nice. Your eye will typically see it around 24 to 30 frames per second. I have mine set to 60, so it's a little quicker. It's going to be a little bit more reactive when it comes to movement. You can release the shutter without the lens, which I'm not sure why you would do that, but you can do that. Release it without the card. What I would do is I would actually turn this off. I would disable that. Because if you're someone like me who goes out, you just grab your camera and you go and you start taking pictures, if that's enabled, it's gonna fire the shutter, but no pictures will actually be saved. So you go and you go, oh, let me look at those, and press play, and I'll go, sorry, there's no card. So this will, what this will allow to do is if I go and try and take a picture now, it's gonna go, hey, sorry, there's no memory card in there, you can't take any pictures. And you'll go and grab a card instead of having to deal with the disappointment of missing those shots. So going back into menu, we can set a priority in AFS or AFC. You have silent shooting available, so because this is a mirrorless camera, we don't have that mirror inside going clack, 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 clack every time you take a picture. You do have that ability to make this completely silent. So when taking pictures at a wedding or a very quiet event, you're trying to be respectful, this can be extremely helpful. Let's see, face recognition. Yeah, I can have it recognize certain faces. Function menu set. So this function quick menu here, you can change the different abilities and settings on there that you may find that you'll change more than others. You can also change the custom keys, the dial setup, movie button that it's always going to record video, that sort of thing. Then of course you have your little internet menu here where you can send pictures directly to your smartphone by going here. Of course, it's pretty easy. You're going to download the app, which is the Imaging Edge mobile app. It used to be Play Memory, so it's, if your camera still pops up saying, hey, download Play Memories, it's actually Imaging Edge mobile app now. It looks like an orange square. You can also send to your computer wirelessly because this throws out a Wi-Fi signal. So currently you may notice that I have the airplane mode on. I do recommend, unless you are sending pictures to your smartphone actively, turning airplane mode on when you're not using the Wi-Fi feature, because when you have the airplane mode off, it's still using some of that internet, or it's still depicting some sort of signal of Wi-Fi. So it's actually using up a lot of your battery life. So definitely keep that in mind when you have this camera. Here, just more network settings when it comes to that Wi-Fi. Here you have your application list. So if we access that, that'll allow you to do a smart remote. Now this is only going to be available on the 63, 64, and 6500. The a6000 does not have the smart remote available, unfortunately. You can also download other applications when it comes to the a6000 series off of Sony's site, so definitely keep that in mind. You have your playback menu, which you can delete pictures, display rotation, do a slideshow, enlarge an image, whatever it may be. And then of course we have our toolbox here, which is going to be more of the actual tinkering with monitor brightness, viewfinder brightness if it's not bright enough, your volume settings during playback. You can change the delete confirm, so when you go and you delete a photo off your playback, it'll highlight cancel first instead of delete, or vice versa depending on how you want it set up. For me, I have cancel first in case I double tap this, I get a little anxious and it cancels it instead of deletes one that I don't want to delete. For me, I have it set to 1 minute. You can actually do a power save. So if you're walking around with your camera on, after 1 minute, mine will go into kind of a sleep mode so I don't waste any battery. You can go into cleaning mode so you can get the sensor clean. Don't do this yourself unless you are an expert. Don't think you're an expert just because you went on YouTube. You definitely want to be careful because the sensor is going to be the heart of your camera. You damage that, your camera's gone. So definitely keep that in mind. HDMI settings, your USB connection, more technical stuff you probably won't play with. The language, date and time setup. You can add your copyright info. Format, I'm gonna, if you have watched my other walkthroughs on other cameras, format is something that I really want to cover with every camera, because formatting is very important to your future images. If you go on vacation, you've taken a lot of pictures at an event, whatever it may be, make sure that you back up your pictures to your computer. I cannot stress it enough, after you've removed your card, make sure they're still on your computer. You don't make any mistakes there. When you put your card back in your camera and you go, okay, I'm ready to start over, you want to make sure that you go to format instead of deleting them with the trash can, because when you delete with the trash can, it essentially just hides the file. You may not be able to see it on playback anymore, but what it'll do is it'll make it an invisible file into an invisible trash can, and that trash can pile up over time of just, there it goes to sleep. After time of just deleting them over and over again, and that can actually create problems, can create almost like a virus where it starts eating away future images and corrupting your card. So to protect your card, to keep yourself a nice healthy card for the long term, make sure that every now and then format your card. So after you transfer a lot of pictures, just make sure that you do so. That pretty much sums it up. Here you can see your version when it comes to your firmware, so you can make sure that that is nice and up to date. Sony does release firmware upgrades because essentially these mirrorless cameras are going to be just computers that you can upgrade, so they're going to last a lot longer, which is nice. And of course, if you ever get stuck, your camera's doing something funny, you can't figure out what the problem is, you can always do a setting reset, and hopefully that fixes your issue. Okay. Other than that, the a6000 series is extremely simple. So if you're looking for a small camera that is lightweight, you're more right-brained where you're learning more visually, you know, the Sonys are fantastic cameras. You know, the other brands are still kind of catching up with that mirrorless system. You know, Canon at the moment only has their M50, M6, M100. Nikon doesn't have any crop sensors out right now. So Sony is still pretty much dominating that line. So if there's anything I didn't go over, if you have any questions specifically about the a6000 line and their differences, please let me know in the comments below. If you have any specific requests on seeing your specific camera or a camera you're interested in, something you've been doing some research on, let me know in the comments below as well. Until next time, keep your eye open for inspiration, Shutterbugs. Bye!